Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to our explainer on maritime logistics, the China to UK shipping pipeline. Today, we're going to trace the epic, multi-stage journey of an everyday product, basically unboxing the massive global machinery that makes modern trade possible. I want you to take just a quick second and look at the objects around you right now. You know, your phone case, your coffee mug, maybe that dusk lamp. Have you ever actually wondered how products like those move from a factory in China all the way to a store in the UK? It's this completely invisible supply chain that we interact with literally every single day, but we rarely stop to think about. It involves this incredible sequence of manufacturing, shipping, customs clearance, and finally delivery. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how we're going to tackle this. We've chunked this massive pipeline into an easy-to-follow, four-part global road trip. 1. Sourcing and production. 2. Leaving the Chinese port. 3. The ocean voyage. And 4. UK arrival and delivery. So, let's start right at the beginning with Section 1, Sourcing and Production. Because, hey, every long journey starts with an idea and a factory. Before anything can even be loaded onto a ship, the whole process kicks off over in China with 3 absolutely crucial micro steps. First up, a buyer has to actually find a product and select a supplier. This is where giant digital platforms, think Alibaba Group, are commonly used to connect UK buyers directly with Chinese manufacturers. Second, once they've found that supplier, both parties have to hammer out the details and agree on pricing and shipping terms. And third, just to make sure everything is perfectly up to standard and meets UK regulations, third-party companies like SGS SA are brought in for rigorous quality inspections. You absolutely have to ensure compliance before a single box leaves that factory floor. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is a critical piece of industry jargon. During that second step, when buyers and suppliers are agreeing on terms, they usually settle on something called FOB, or free on board. This is super important. It's the exact point in the pipeline where the buyer officially assumes the responsibility and the costs for the goods. Understanding exactly where that liability shifts is pretty much the backbone of global trade. Okay, so with the supplier vetted, the inspections lined up, and those FOB terms locked in, production officially begins. And this triggers right after a deposit is paid. You know, we often think of global shipping in terms of Amazon-level speed, but we have to remember the physical reality here. It typically takes a few weeks just to physically manufacture these goods and box them up before they can even start their journey. Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds. Leaving the Chinese port. The goods are finally made, so how do we get them to the water? Well, this brings us to the freight booking and pickup stage. A buyer doesn't just, call a local delivery truck. They hire a dedicated freight forwarder, someone like Kuna plus Noggle, to manage these complex logistics. This forwarder handles collecting the goods directly from the Chinese factory and then manages the entire overland transport to a massive export hub. In a lot of cases, this means transporting the cargo to a sprawling, super high-capacity facility like the Port of Shanghai. But arriving at the port doesn't mean you can just toss the boxes onto a ship. Consider the stark contrast in international bureaucracy going on here. On the export side over in China, Chinese customs has to review all the documents. They are specifically looking for the commercial invoice and the packing list. It's a really strict checkpoint to legally exit the country. Now, contrast that with what we're going to see later upon import to the UK, where the UK Customs Authority is much more focused on the financial requirements, like import duties and VAT. It's 2 very different layers of red tape that have to be navigated perfectly. Once that Chinese export clearance gets the official stamp of approval, we hit the final hurdle on dry land. The approved goods are carefully packed and loaded into those massive shipping containers. These steel boxes are literally the standardized lifeblood of global trade, and now they are finally ready to be hoisted into the air. Section 3. The ocean voyage. We are leaving the land behind for the longest and, honestly, most isolating leg of the pipeline. The container is loaded onto a massive cargo ship, and the voyage to the UK begins. Just trace this incredible geographical route with me. The vessel starts from a megaport like Shanghai, navigates all the way across the globe, funneling right through key strategic bottlenecks like the Suez Canal, before eventually making its way up to Northern Europe and arriving at a destination like the port of Felixstowe. So the crucial point is the sheer scale of time this takes, up to 40 days. This ocean voyage alone typically takes between 25 to 40 days out at sea. For over a month, your phone case or your coffee mug is just floating across the planet, entirely subject to weather, scheduling, and maritime logistics. It is a massive temporal gap between that factory floor and your local store shelf. But finally, land is in sight. We enter Section 4, UK Arrival and Delivery. The pacing completely changes the second our cargo makes landfall on British soil. When that massive cargo ship docks at the port of Felixstowe, it triggers a really vital communication event. The UK importer receives an official arrival notice. This single piece of paper is basically the starting gun for the final leg of logistics. It tells the importer, your goods are finally here, it's time to act. Now, remember that comparison of international bureaucracy we looked at a few minutes ago? Well, here is where the UK side comes into play. The importer has to submit all their final documentation to UK customs. But, as we know, paperwork isn't enough. This is where the financials actually get settled. The importer must pay the required import duties and settle the value-added tax, or VAT. Only after those taxes and duties are totally cleared are the goods officially released from the port's hold. And that leads us to the fast-paced final sprint. The containers are cracked open or hoisted directly onto chassis and loaded right onto domestic transport trucks. These trucks drive the goods away from the coastal ports, heading deep inland to massive distribution centers or regional warehouses. And from there, they're dispatched directly to the final retail stores. At this exact point, those products are finally unboxed, put on a shelf, and they are ready to be sold to you. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Next time you click buy on an online purchase or just pick up a simple item in a UK store, will you picture this incredible 40-day global coordination? I mean, from Alibaba searches and SGS inspections to navigating the Suez Canal and clearing UK customs, it is a phenomenal, totally invisible pipeline that quietly powers our modern world. Thanks for learning with us today on The Explainer. Keep asking questions and keep exploring the amazing systems around you.